Hello, everybody. First of all, I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you for every single person who has given my brand new YouTube channel love and support, whether it's likes, comments, or views already. This is the third video that I'm giving a go, and it's going to be a big topic, and I hope it resonates with a lot of people, because that's what this YouTube channel is going to be about. Trying to connect, trying to resonate with people, trying to make a difference in people's lives. And quite frankly, most of the things I do as a professional role in business, in my career, in my life, all of it mixed in, matched in together. I always look at how can I make a difference in people's lives. That's always my go-to when I'm trying to create or design something in my life in a professional aspect. And that's kind of why I wanted to start this YouTube channel as well, too. I want it to be another resource, another tool, somebody who has connected with me in the past or is going to connect with me in the future could reflect on some of these videos with some of these lessons and some of these stories. And the beautiful thing about it all is that wherever you are in the world, you can watch these videos. You know, we don't have to be in a gigantic gymnasium or a school or a conference center for you to be able to hear these messages. Now, I know not every single person are going to resonate with these messages, and that's okay. But there's a lot of people in this world that are going to be able to, and that's a beautiful thing. But the topic for my third video that I want to share here today is a big one. And it's why I officially quit consuming alcohol completely in my life. Now, some people who just heard that statement might be surprised that, I just shared that statement, because some people might have assumed it was years ago that I actually quit drinking. But the last 3 years of my life, I've gone on an annual trip with a few buddies of mine. Now, this annual trip started years ago before I was even a part of this group. It started as an annual fishing trip with a few guys. And of course, each year that trip got bigger and bigger. And a few years ago, about 5 years ago or so, I started going on this annual trip. And we would go to different lakes and we'd go fishing. And of course, we would have some alcoholic beverages on these trips. Now, like I said, for the last 3 years, I have gone on this trip like previous years. But for the last 3 years of my life has changed drastically compared to where it used to be in life. See, the only time I've actually consumed alcohol the last 3 years have been on this annual fishing trip. When I come home after this trip, I don't go out and I don't go consume any alcohol. I don't go to a bar after work Friday night. I don't go drinking on a weekend whatsoever. I don't go to a buddy's house and watch sports and consume any alcohol. No, the only alcohol that I have drank the last 3 years, I can count on one hand. And it's one weekend a year at this fishing trip. One of the years we used to go to BC for a friend's bachelor party. But besides that, it's still this trip that we counted the time towards. Now, those 3 weekends, 3 years in a row, also me and my wife's wedding a couple years ago. It's the only times I've drank alcohol in the last 3 years of my life. And that may surprise a lot of people who know me on a personal basis. For those who know me very well, it won't surprise you, because alcohol no longer played a big role in my life. Now, a little bit more of a backstory. I've been not dependent, but ingrained with substances, whether it's alcohol or drugs, since I've been about 11 years old. That's when I first started experimenting with drugs and alcohol. Now, when I was about the age of 14, that's when things started getting a little bit more severe. That's when I started to experiment with harder drugs and more drugs and harder drugs. And for quite a few years of my life, it was a big mixture of hard drugs, alcohol, and as much as I could mix in between every time I would start one or the other. Now, my addiction habits in the past took me into many different scary places that I'm so proud and so thankful that I no longer have to go to in my own personal life. But I think it's actually one of the reasons why I continue to do what I do as a professional, as a public speaker who speaks about his lived experiences with alcohol and drugs. Because I know where a person can feel when they go to some of the darkest moments with addictions. I know it's not easy to come back from. And I know there's a lot of loved ones who have people in those kind of worlds and would want nothing more than those people to come out of those worlds and escape those addictions and escape those hard times. And I truly believe, because I'm an empathetic person, an empath, that that's one of the biggest reasons why I love doing what I do and, doing it as a profession. Because I know truly how it feels to be wrapped up in all of those things. But in saying that, I'm proud to say that it's been about 7 years of my life since I've touched hard drugs. Now, I used to grow up thinking that that was never going to be the case in my life. I thought that drugs and alcohol were going to be a part of my life till the day I no longer lived this life, that I no longer had my life to live. Now I'm thankful it's not the case anymore. Around that 7-year mark, being away from hard drugs, and I'll never be going back. And the last 3 years of my life, only drinking once a year on one annual fishing trip. And this last fishing trip last summer, July-ish 2025, I think it was the last time I went on this fishing trip with these guys where I knew I was going to go and consume alcohol. See, leading up to this fishing trip, I was actually contemplating whether or not this was still a good fit in my life. Because at this time, I, of course, had my one baby. And then, of course, I had my second baby that was just brand new-ish at the time. And I just didn't want to be that father that, Saturday morning, Sunday morning came along and we had sports to go to, and I was getting up in the morning feeling groggy and tired. And I didn't want to get out of bed because I had a little bit of a hangover, whatever it was. I just knew that never was going to be a part of our lives together, even before we started having kids. And I think gradually, that's why it became less and less part of my life, alcohol. Because I just didn't want to do that for my kids. I didn't want to be that father. And that was a big reason why I think I shifted away over the years of less and less alcohol in my life. And I didn't just go cold turkey. Going on that last fishing trip, I knew almost the whole weekend that this was going to be my last weekend. And knowing that, there was a part of a relief in me that just realized that, okay, in my life, even though when I go back home, it's never a part of my world, but it's never a part of what I do on a weekend, just moving forward, that there was a relief in me knowing that this is my last time to ever maybe not feel completely in control. It is my last time to ever not feel the greatest the next morning. And you know what, coming back, I was so ready, so excited for that feeling to just continue on for the rest of my life. At that part, I was still 31. That's what age I am right now. But just knowing for, if I have another 50 years on this planet, another 60 years, that's going to be my legacy moving forward. No more alcohol, no more drugs. And I know I have a DNA in me that has an addictive personality. And I know my kids have it too, because they're my kids. And it's something that I want to just kind of lead by example for my kids growing up, me and my wife's kids. That you don't have to partake in something that might not be good for you. And I want to lead and show them that if their dad can do it, they can do it too if they want. As they get older and as they become a part of life, more and more mature. Now, I think that's one of the things I can give them that I know I can give them. It's just to watch their dad just live a sober life, live a clean life. Now, I still have my mistakes, I still have my flaws, I still am going to mess up in the future. There's no doubt about it in my mind. But I know that's one circumstance that I'm not going to mess up in their lives. Not anymore, because that part has sailed in my life. And I hope, when my kids are old enough and maybe they watch one of these videos or this video per se, that they'll be proud because their dad knew it wasn't good for him to be a father with that stuff. And so he made the choice, he made the decision for that to be out of his life so that he could be the best dad he could be. And I think just for myself as a young man growing up, at times needing guidance in my life, I think that's one of the best gifts I can give my kids. Something else happened on that fishing trip, our last time that we went this past summer, that really just stuck with me too, and it hit a nerve, and it was tough to bear while we were on this trip. So the Friday night goes by, we all get there, we're fishing a little bit, we're having some fun, we're hanging out. There's a couple boats of us, a couple boats of guys fishing in this trip that we were all together. We rented a big cabin. And then Saturday morning comes by. At least I think it was the Saturday morning. And we wake up and kind of start rolling our day. We go fishing. We come back. And the cabin 3 feet away from our cabin has a group of kids. I think I later found out that one was 4 years old, one was 5 years old, and then I think the other two were 7 and 9. Now in this cabin, they had these nice, beautiful decks that were under the roof, so people could be up on the decks while it was raining, while it was snowing, whatever. Now, that deck on our fellow neighbor's cabin right beside us had nothing but alcohol bottles and hard liquor bottles and, cooler cans spread all across the deck. Like it was one big gigantic party the night before at this cabin. Now, that wouldn't have bothered me so much if it wasn't what I seen next. Like I said, the kids being age 4 and 5, and I think it was 7 and 9. Being on the deck by themselves without any guidance from any adults. No grandparents, no parents, no babysitters, nobody. And it bothered me because people chose alcohol and other consumptions maybe, instead of taking care of the people who were under their watch. And it bothered me a great deal, and if I can be honest, it angered me because these kids didn't ask for that role to be bestowed upon them. They just asked to be kids. And the 2 older ones were going by the dock to go swimming. I give you, there was quite a bit of rocks around that dock. So every time they had to step, they were stepping on rocks trying to find a place to swim. And then the 2 younger ones wanted to go swimming as well. And one of the young kids, one of the 4-year-old, I think it was, asked if I could take him, or one of us could take him down by the docks so he could go swimming. So at this time, I said, yeah, for sure. Because I realized what was happening beside us. No one was up. It was just these kids taking care of themselves. So I got up, put my drink down on my deck, or on the deck that we're staying at, and I walked down with this little 4-year-old by the hand. And he had his life jacket on, and he wanted to go swimming. And so I sat on the dock with him and his little sisters, his little siblings or cousins, and they continued to swim for the next hour or so. Now, I wasn't going to leave these kids' side because I didn't want one of them to fall and trip and hit their heads or whatever it was. I just didn't want it to happen. So I sat there for an hour, let them played with them a little bit in the water. And about an hour after doing this, the grandparents wake up. And then the guardians wake up. And now they have somebody to watch over them who's, in relation to them. And so I got back up and I went on about our fishing trip after that. Now, coming home from that trip, that stuck with me for quite a few days. It stayed with me because that was tough to bear. Knowing that these young kids were just in a situation like that. And this is, for them going on a vacation trip together for a weekend. This isn't their home life. This isn't them doing anything else besides that. This is just a weekend trip. And it bothered me because I know that if it happened on this weekend trip, the chances are that's going to happen on other times with this family. And it just made me reinforce the idea that much more that alcohol doesn't need any more place in my life whatsoever until the time I'm done on this planet. And that was a big deciding factor for me to officially, completely be done alcohol. Because I know there's a lot of families in this world that hurt from different circumstances, different stories like that. And if I can be a person that helps change that narrative for the better, that's what I want to do. Now, for a third video, that story goes pretty deep and probably is affecting some people to listen and watch about that story because it's pretty raw, it's pretty intense. But I think that's what this YouTube channel is going to be about. It's going to be about sharing stories, about trying to gain wisdom, trying to gain knowledge, trying to gain different perspectives. And we're going to do that through some storytelling. So although alcohol hasn't been a big part of my life for the last 3 years or so, I'm proud to say it's no longer going to be a part of my life whatsoever. And the story, going on this fishing trip, being beside this family who was in the cabin right next to us, that was a part of that situation, that was part of that shift and that momentum for me deciding officially no more alcohol. Besides that, it was once a year and then once at our wedding, for me and my wife's wedding. And I'm proud to say that I have the rest of my life to go completely sober. Now, if you would have asked me that question when I was 11 years old, 12 years old, 13 years old, chances are I probably wouldn't be telling you that. The most transparent answer I can give to you about that story and about everything is that this should have happened years ago. Because my life has only got better and better and better. The more and more that I've abstained away from alcohol, the more and more distance that I've put myself between alcohol and drugs, my life has only got better and better and better and better. Now, all my good friends that have completely drinking alcohol in their life completely for years, some have 10 years, some 15, some 20, I have never heard a statement once from any of them that quitting drinking was the worst thing that they ever did in their life. And I know for a fact I won't be ever saying that statement myself because it's only helped me in my life. It's only helped me in my business. It's only helped me become the father and stay the father that I want to be, stay the husband and become the husband that I want to be, and take care of my responsibilities and all the things that I have on my plate, even on my shoulders. And sometimes it might even feel heavy. But I know my shoulders aren't any extra heavy because of a mistake or a choice I made when I was intoxicated. Now for me, that's the life I want to live. That's a legacy I want to live and leave behind. We all have to make our choices and we all have to live by them and try and live the best life that we possibly can moving forward. And that's one of the ways I try and show up for the people who I care about, the people who I work with, and the people who I, get to be around. So, once again, thank you for all the love and support for those who have listened or watched any of these videos or who are going to moving forward with as many videos as come down the line. If I can be honest, this was not an easy one. But it's one that came out because I felt like it needed to. I felt like it was right, and I felt like it was going to help a lot of people. So thank you very much. If you could, and if you got value from this video, give it a like maybe, give it a share maybe give the video and the YouTube channel a subscribe. And if you just enjoyed it, just knowing that you enjoy it is, great payment enough. So thank you very much. Once you believe you have the ability and capacity to do great things, that is when I truly believe life can become limitless. Thank you, everyone.